almost evenly between the right and left hemisphere of your brain. You've got an interesting mix in your personality.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that, but
Sure.
I could feel that. You're almost an even balance between the two. And as I say that, I'm trying to figure out more one than the other, and I don't think you are. Well, your intuition will do that, because your intuition is a mental faculty that picks up vibration and translates it in your mind. It's through intuition that you get answers to your questions. Like you asked a question, the opposite side of a question is an answer. It's the equal and opposite side. So our answer comes with our question, but we're not tuned in to pick it up. Like every question is an answer. Well, the imagination, of course, it's everything.
Yeah.
So you get these higher faculties and you get using them, and I started to learn how to use these. And I started to see that we've got so much going for us that we never hear about. School doesn't teach us. Our parents don't teach us. You go to work for a company, they don't teach you. So the odds of learning it are really slim, And it's the reason there's so few people that really are successful in life. There's all kinds of material around in success. My goodness, there's more around today than there's ever been.
Yeah.
Self-help books are, top of the bestsellers list.
They're crushing, yeah.
In 1968, when I first started to study this, you had Norman Vincent Peale's Power of Positive Thinking, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Carnegie. It was a few books, Think and Grow Rich, but there weren't that many. Today, there's thousands of them.
Yeah, people need it because they don't know how to use the tools that we have.
But they don't know how to use the information that's in the books.
Right. How do we, so what are these 5 faculties again, you said?
You have perception.
Yeah.
Intuition. The will. Reason.
Reason.
Yeah. Imagination. There's 6. And memory. Like everybody has a perfect memory. It's just weak. I worked with Harry Lorraine, who's probably had the best trained memory in the world. And I asked him one time, he said, Harry, how long do you remember something? He said, still don't want to forget it. We had a man, Abdul, over from Saudi Arabia in a matrix seminar that we conduct. And he was a psychiatrist, he was teaching people to memorize the Quran. Jerry Lucas, great basketball player, he was teaching people in San Fran to memorize the Bible. We have a perfect memory. It's just weak. We never develop it.
Right.
But we grow up, I've got such a bad memory. Well, there's no such thing as a bad memory.
The more you say it, the more you're going to convince yourself that it's weak.
That's exactly, yeah.
Which faculty of the 6 was the hardest for you to tap into and become a master of?
They're all difficult to tap into because we're programmed not to use them.
Why is that?
Because there's only one problem in the whole world, and that's ignorance. We didn't know we had them. See, people talk about perception, but they don't see it as a mental faculty. It's just a word. If I have a challenge, there's something really struggling with, I've learned how I'll take and I'll write it out on a piece of paper as clear as I can, as if I was going to give it to you and then you'll understand the same as I understand the problem. I'll put it in the middle of a table and I'll sit and look at it. And I'll keep asking, now, is that problem in me or is it on the paper? Is it in me? And I'll work until I get it on the paper, get it out of myself.
For example, what do you mean, like a problem that you might?
Well, anything that I'm trying to figure out, maybe how to improve a particular seminar I'm just not happy with. And I've been doing it for a long time,
So you would write down?
Yeah, write down
the problem
any
is the
problem
seminar.
you've got. I don't care what the problem is. Maybe you're short of money. You don't have enough money.
Right.
Write that down.
Right.
You're short of money for a purpose. You were wanting to buy a building or something.
So you look at the paper and then you ask yourself,
is the problem in me or is it on the paper? And you work until you get it on the paper. Get it out of yourself. So you can look at it objectively like a stranger would. And then go and sit on the other side of the table. And I may say, now, how would Lewis Howes look at this?
Yeah.
How would he handle this? I may go sit at the end of the table and literally move physically and say, how would Earl Nightingale handle this? How would he see this? I may say, how would Napoleon Hill go somewhere else? And person doesn't have to be alive. They could be dead.
Right.
Their energy's not dead. It's always here. And, well, what you're doing is shifting your perception. As you change your perception, you eliminate the problem. The answer's there. But you've got to get in harmony with it. You know? So any one of them, you take any one of them. The will, like we were talking, the will. If somebody's standing behind you, let's say in a mall, and they're staring at you, you feel them staring at you, don't you?
Yeah.
Why? Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. And when a person's staring, they're concentrating, they're sending such a powerful charge of energy at your brain that you start to feel it. You turn around, sure as hell, there's somebody there staring at you. Concentration increases amplitude of vibration. There's a power flowing to and through us all the time. It never stops. You can photograph the energy leaving the body. Well, concentration increases it, makes it more powerful. So whatever you concentrate on, you're giving more energy to. Emerson said the only thing that can grow is the thing you give energy to. So as you start to learn how to utilize these higher faculties, you start to learn how to improve the quality of your life. And you start to see why you're God's highest form of creation. You know, it's like I don't see God as a man on a cloud.
Right.
Just going to answer my questions for me. You know, as a great author one time said, God will feed every bird, but he's not going to put food in their nest. You got to do it. You know, God's not going to do it for us. We got to do it.
Yeah.
And so we've got these higher faculties. We've got to learn how to utilize them.
Which one was the hardest for you to learn how to utilize, and which one do you think is the hardest for the majority of people?
Intuition.
Was for you and everyone else?
No, not for me.
Intuition for everyone else.
Yeah, because I made up my mind I was going to study that one. I saw a guy that was very intuitive, and I wanted to be like that. And I thought it was, you know, I would have said when I first saw it, he was psychic. Well, the truth is, he was psychic, but we're all psychic. Psyche is just Greek word for mind. And so I was fascinated with what he did. He could just look at you and read the situation. And I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So I made up my mind I was going to study it. And in a seminar, if I'm teaching this, the one thing everybody wants to know, how do you develop your intuition? Because you can get, intuition is a feeling that you pick up. Intuition reads feeling. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. So you're reading vibration. Vibration is a natural law of the universe. Like your body vibrates. You're vibration by high speed of vibration. Well, you got to take your mind off yourself if you're going to read the other person's energy. You got to focus on the other person.
So you can't be insecure when you're trying to be intuitive.
Oh no.
You can't be doubting yourself. You can't be lacking something.
You have to give all of your attention to the person you're working with.
Yeah.
And of course, that's a secret for speaking too. You know, most people don't do that. We're more concerned. What's he think of me? Does she like me? You know, is my tie straight? Is this?
What am I going to say next?
Yeah. What am I going to say? Am I going to say the right thing? You got to take your mind off yourself totally and put it on the other person, and you got to be relaxed. You got to get very relaxed, and you'll tune into their energy. You start to feel it. Like if you're with somebody and you say, "God, they were interesting." Why were they interesting? Because they were interested. You know, if you want to be loving, be lovable. If you want to be loved, be lovable. If you want to have friends, be friendly.
The most interesting person in the room is the most interested person in the room.
Exactly.
That's what I always learned.
That's the truth.
One of the things I used to be, I love everything you're saying. I get so excited. That's why I'm passionate about this, because I was telling you beforehand that I was terrified to speak in front of a few people, in front of an audience of 3, 5, 10. It was terrifying. The idea of being in front of 100 or 1,000 people was like, I'd rather, curl up in a ball when I was 18, 22, those ages. And I remember someone telling me, I heard that somewhere, the most interesting person in the room is the most interested. And I said, that takes all the pressure off of me. I don't have to say anything interesting. I don't have to be like this funny, charismatic.
Just have to be interested.
Just listen.
Yeah.
And ask interesting questions or ask a thoughtful, genuine question. It doesn't have to be smart. Just.
See, most people, they don't even remember the person's name.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're not interested in their name. They're too focused on themselves. What does the person think of me? If you're really interested, you're going to remember the person's name.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's interesting, you mentioned there, there's a good story to tell you that about public speaking. I had studied this stuff for a long time, and I had used it. I knew it worked. I didn't wonder if it worked. I knew it worked.
Yeah.
And all I wanted to do was teach it to other people. It took me 9.5 years to figure out why I changed. And when I learned, all I wanted to do was teach it to other people. But I was afraid, I was very shy, very
Insecure, yeah.
very insecure. But I had all this knowledge. I was earning a lot of money. In there, I did well. Outside of there, forget it. And on one of Earl Nightingale's tapes, on the recording, called The Magic Word on Attitude. It's so fun. You're familiar with it? Oh,
Let's check it out.
you've got it.
Yeah.
I will get an original copy and send it to you.
Please do.
You've got it, you've got it.
I'll listen, yeah.
I will send it. Well, he said, now there's on attitude. He said, now right here we come to a rather strange fact. We tend to minimize the things we can do, the goals we can accomplish, and for some equally strange reason, we think other people can accomplish things that we cannot. You want to realize that you have deep reservoirs of talent and ability within you. Now, if you had asked me, do you understand that? I'd say, of course I understood. I've listened to it 1,000 times, at least. Well, I was in the back corner of the room at the O'Hare Hyatt. Bill Gove was speaking to 1,000 people. I was in the back corner of the room, and I was watching him. Bill Gove was the Frank Sinatra speakers. One of the best speakers in the world. And I watched him. He come off, there was 1,000 people, about 500 bank here, 500 here, then there was a central aisle. He got to this corner, he had a handheld mic and he had his hand up. And he said, if I want to be free, I've got to be me. Not to me I think you think I should be. Not to me I think my wife thinks I should be. Not to me I think my kids think I should be. If I want to be free, I got to be. And I was watching him and I think, my God, this guy's so good. If only I could do that. I could never do that. All of a sudden, that record of Earl started to play in my head. Now right here, we come to a rather strange fact. We tend to minimize the things we can do, the goals we can accomplish. And I thought, damn, that's what Earl means. And I suddenly realized, and I have been listening to this thing for years, if Gove could do it, I could do it. And I made up my mind, I was going to learn how to speak like he did, and I was going to get him to teach me.
Wow.
And so he became a mentor of mine. I paid him a lot of money just to sit down and talk to him for a few minutes, a number of times. Now, I speak nothing like Bill Gove.
Right.
I mean, I'm nothing like him. He speaks totally different than me. Although I'll speak to thousands of people at the same time, what he taught me was to be relaxed in front of the audience. That was the big lesson. If you're not relaxed in front of an audience, the audience will know it.
How do you relax in front of an audience when you're terrified?
You've got to think of the audience. You've got to think of how you're going to, what you're helping, how you're going to teach them something.
Another mentor of mine a couple years ago told me something similar, because I'd been training in Toastmasters and had coaches and had overcome a lot of my fears of speaking in front of big crowds. And I got pretty good. I was getting paid, big fees and things like that, but I was still nervous a little bit before and felt a little insecure. And I remember calling him about 15 minutes before, being like, can you give me some grounding? Can you give some coaching? And he said, don't make it about you, make it about them. You're gonna mess up, be okay with it. You're not gonna remember every word you wanna say. Don't beat yourself up. Focus on them and how you can serve. Don't focus on yourself. And that's when everything started to shift. Just like you said, when you focus on service to the audience.
You gotta fall in love with helping that audience.
Helping, giving, doing whatever you can to serve, you stop worrying about everything the way you look. It's the same thing when you're having an interaction with a group of people and you're just listening and you're not worried about what people think about you. You're just being interested in them.
You got to have a very confident feeling in about what you're doing.
How do people build that confidence if they don't have it?
Well, you build confidence by learning, don't you? I mean, that's the only way you get confidence.
Yeah.
I went to a nightclub in London, England, back in the 60s. The talk of the town. It was the largest supper club in the world. And the show they had was the Wild West. And it was like a Vegas show, and they'd bring in, that show may run for 2 or 3 years, and they'd bring in the stars to work it. And I went one night, and I had a seat right by the stage. There was 1,000, they'd set 1,000 people down to dinner in the talk of the town. It's not open anymore. Wayne Newton was the star.
Wow.
Wayne Newton was a kid. He was 20, maybe 21. His brother was playing with him, playing guitar in a little group of his. He walked out on that stage, bang, just like that. He owned that place. I never forgot that. That guy was so confident. And he had that audience in the palm of his hand right away. Whenever I go to speak, I will find a place, if I'm speaking to a group, maybe go in the kitchen, sit down. I've learned if you're dressed, they'll think you own the place. They just leave you alone. And I'll sit down there, and I see Wayne Newton walking on that stage as a kid. That's what you got to do. You got to really fall in love with the idea of helping the audience, and you own the place. You go, and you're going to be and deliver. And anytime you see a star come out, they own the place when they walk out. But they've fallen in love with helping you. You know?
Something else, it sounds like you've mastered the power of alter ego. For me, as an athlete, I used to be scared to perform, to play in front of big games. And I used to tap into Jerry Rice because I was a wide receiver and Jerry Rice was, the best. And so I was just like mimicking him. I was like, how would Jerry Rice do this? How did he carry his body, his chest? How did he walk on the field, his swagger, his confidence? And I just acted like I was Jerry Rice. I became him when I stepped on the field, and it helped overcome the insecurities of the nerves by just embodying the energy of Jerry Rice. It sounds like you've been doing that.
I do that in
Wayne.
different ways with different people.
Yeah, in different scenarios, right?
Yeah, like years ago, I started to realize the real power of self-image, studying Maltz's work. And I will, and I've taught this to many people, I will build an image, different parts of my personality. I will see someone that I really, something they do that I really admire, the way they do it. And I will adopt that. Now, I've got this, I've been doing this for years. And if you were to watch me going from one place to another, I never walk fast. Never. When I was a kid, this stuck in my mind. There was another kid, Donnie Miller, lived down the street from us. Now, this was during the Second World War, so there were no fathers at home. They were all always shooting at each other. But his dad was home. His dad wasn't well. His dad had had a heart attack, so nobody went around his house because his dad was sick. They'd come around the other houses. But the doctor must have told his dad to walk. His dad was always dressed, suit, shirt, tie, and I'd watch him walk up and down the street. I'd see him every now and then. He'd walk up and down the street, and he had this real relaxed walk about him. And when I was building a self-image, a picture of his dad stuck in my mind. And so I sort of mimicked his walk.
Wow.
But I've done different things. Like, I used to watch Earl Nightingale record. When I first went to work for him, he had a recording studio. It'd be like this, there was a window. My office, I could look in when he was recording. And one day I realized he's talking to that damn microphone.
Right.
He has a microphone. And I thought, that microphone's a person to him. Now, you create all great broadcasters, they just talk to one person.
They
don't say
imagine a
you
person.
people or you folks or talk to you. But they would be talking, and I realized he's talking to a microphone. So, and in our recording, I talk to one person. It's a microphone. If I'm working with an audience, I talk to one person. These are just little lessons that I picked up to get better at what I was doing. I remember, if a person's negative in an audience, real negative, there could be 500 people in that audience. That one person's energy is so strong.
Stands out, yeah.
And there was a woman that I met, Beverly Lynch, years and years ago when I was at Nightingale, Conant, and I asked her one time, I said, she was the speaker, I said, Beverly, what are you doing? There's a negative person in the audience. She smiled, and she says, you talk to the light, not the dark. I thought, wow. So obvious. Why did I miss that? So if I'm talking and there's a negative or a few negative, I just take one person that's super positive, and it doesn't matter where I'm looking, that's the person I'm looking at. Mm-hmm. I'll talk to that person.
So you focus on the positive people.
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
You won't try to put your attention on the negative person and try to get them to be happy and smile. You just...
If you just keep putting the positive, if they just open their mind for a minute, you're in.
Yeah.
You got to get the information into their subconscious mind.
Yeah.
You know.
You mentioned, I think one of the faculties you said was the most challenging is imagination. Is that one of the most challenging for people?
It's not the most challenging. It's something we really want to gain an understanding of, because most people use their imagination. They use it the wrong way. They imagine what won't work. They imagine something bad happening.
What should we imagine more often every day?
We should imagine you should see yourself where you want to be. You got to live there.